Introducing Blue Sky Sea Salt from the ancient waters of the Pacific Ocean. Water collected off the shore in Oregon during the phenomena of upwelling, where the waters from the deep rise to the surface, bringing with it nutrients and purity of seawater of the past. Collected, dehydrated naturally by sun and wind power, and packaged by me, Chef Bob Neroni of EVO Cannon Beach Cooking School. Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Let me start with a quick overview and kind of the objective of this project. The objective is clear. We're looking for you to help us create a scale model. Let me be really clear. We want you to create a scale model working with us for the purpose of salt dehydration. We want to evaporate natural seawater to create salt. We're going to do this through a greenhouse. That greenhouse is going to be powered through wind energy using a fan on the top, a windmill if you will, and then other fans, one or two or several depending on what you come up with inside, to oscillate air to create lots of agitation on the surface of the water, therefore speeding up the process of evaporation. Our outcome we're looking for is salt. A secondary outcome we're looking for is potable water. So this prototype is going to require you to kind of think outside the box, because really what we're looking you to do is to push the season. We're forcing the season. Last year, the students that worked on this forced the season. We didn't realize going into it we were going to have to, because we thought we'd have a good spring, but it was probably the worst spring on record. They weren't able to collect the metrics we needed for a full-scale production. We're hoping that your scale model will be able to be replicated in a larger format using a small footprint, which we'll talk about in a minute, so that we'll be able to do this commercially, if you will. Now, let's kind of go here and talk about I'm going to say the four pieces that are key here. Number one, we want to modernize the harvesting of salt for the purpose of making salt. There are two processes in play right now. Number one is desalinization. Most companies desalinate salt water for the purpose of drinking water. The outcome is great drinking water, but you lose everything else that we're looking to capture. The other faction, if you will, is dehydrating salt through fossil fuel. They're burning water, they're actually evaporating it, boiling it out, and the outcome is quick, but you use a lot of fossil fuel to do it. Our process is going to be green. We want to capture the fresh water as it evaporates to use for secondary purposes. We've talked about that already. We're going to do this by utilizing a small footprint of land. We don't want to add to the carbon footprint by burning fossil fuel. We want to ensure that the resulting sea salt lives up and earns its name, Blue Sky Sea Salt. Now, I should talk a little bit about the inspiration from this. First off, we obviously live on the Oregon coast. We're at Cannon Beach, and Lewis and Clark, many times over the summer months when they would set up camp in what is now the seaside area, would gather salt water, put it into cast iron pots, if you will, and then build campfires around it. And they would burn that salt water, boil it down to salt. Their records show that a gallon of water would yield about 2/3 of a cup of salt, and as a chef I couldn't just sit here and not try it, so I did, and sure enough that's exactly what we yielded. That was one inspiration. As a chef I've been using natural sea salt and salt harvested from mines for years, but the natural sea salt always caught my attention. We use salt from the coast of France, where they harvested on mudflats in open air using solar evaporation. Other places like Sicily also do the same type of process. What they have that we don't is the direct sunlight, which is why we had to create the process of a greenhouse. And that's where our really final inspiration came from. As I was about to give up on the project, I came across a company in Maine that is using hoop houses, which if you will is like a greenhouse with open ends on either side. They procure the water, they bring it to their location, and they have built basically wells in the hoop houses that hold the water and allowing it to dehydrate naturally. They allege that it takes about 6 weeks for them to have the salt they needed. We were not as lucky when we created the incredible salt that's in front of me here. We got about 500 gallons of salt water from the coast here. We were able to literally dehydrate using the process we talked about, a small greenhouse with water in bins. Those bins were approximately 6 to 7 inches apart. There's no science there, that's what you're going to help us with. And they were slightly tilted, so as the water condensated on the top of the bin, on top of each other bin, if you will, it was captured in a barrel for secondary use. This salt that was created, however, over the course of several months is pristine. In the culinary world we call this fleur de sel, the flower of the salt. It is just incredibly flavorful, and although the great nutrients that are in the salt water don't necessarily transpose themselves into the salt as final product, the good news is nor do the bacteria and other things that we would want to avoid in the process. So this is pristine salt. We're very happy with it. Blue Sky Sea Salt was also a project for us that's not just financial, but also I think has a much more global application. Once the technology is created, it is not our goal to keep it ourselves. We want to share it with countries where they have lots of salt water access, but they don't have access to clean water. We're hoping that their secondary use could be potable water for irrigation or for other purposes. But we think that if we use a small footprint, it's going to work to everybody's advantage. Finally, speaking of a small footprint, we have been fortunate enough to have a relationship with the local food bank in Clatsop County. They're offering us some land that we will pay for, a small quantity of money, and we will build our final prototype in order to do our commercial production. We're hoping to be able to partner this with you, and if this works the way we hope it will, then maybe you'll be there to help us build that final greenhouse and be there for its grand opening. Our interest in this really, as I said, is more than just creating salt and having this final result. I think, as I said, the technology can be used, and I think the final and remaining piece is this building of the windmill. The first group was able to use heat lamps to emulate sunlight. It's probably the best way to go, but I'm going to leave that to you to decide. We want to incorporate the fan component, and I'm hoping you can help us build and create, if you will, the design. Obviously, if we're going to do the build, you need to help us with the design of this windmill that has fans inside the greenhouse and outside capturing the wind energy. Finally, if you have any questions, I can be reached on my cell phone at 503-440-2793. Again, that's 503-440-2793. I hope this little video gave you kind of the inspiration of where this all started, and I hope you get excited like we are to create salt. Come join our team. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.